Today we're going to be talking about Pythagorean Theorem, and it's one of the most useful formulas to know because it helps you find lengths of triangles, right angle triangles, and it's going to be used a lot. So I'm going to be talking about what are Pythagorean theorems. I'm going to be talking about Pythagorean theorem inequalities. So what is a Pythagorean theorem? Well, as I said before, it's used in right angle triangle to find sides. And the formula you use is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And as you can see from this diagram, a, b, and c are sides on the triangle. And it's important to note that that c has to be the hypotenuse, which is the longest side, and a and b are going to be the two shorter sides. So for an example, how would you use this? So let's say in this question, you would have a equals 12 and b equals 3. That means that you would have one side of the triangle as 12 and the other side as 3. And notice that since this is a and b, these are the two short sides. So it's asking you, how do you get the hypotenuse or the longest side? So then you can easily just use the formula, which you would just sub in a and b. So you get 12 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. Get 153 equals c squared, and you would get about 12.37 as the hypotenuse. So a word problem, this is slightly different. However, it still uses the same components. So let's say a square has an area of 36. What is that diagonal length across a square, which is this bolded line here? So you would know that since this is a square, all of its sides would be equal. So then to get the area of a square, you would use a squared. So you know that each side is 6 units. Therefore, you can see that we have the same shape as before, which is the right angle triangle. And if you just use the Pythagorean theorem, you would find that the diagonal length across a square, which is the hypotenuse, this line, would be around 8.49. And it's important to note that you can use this theorem even if you don't have the two shorter sides, as long as you have two lengths from any side of the triangle. That's all right. Even though, let's say if you have one short side and one long side of the triangle. And lastly, we're going to be talking about Pythagorean theorem inequalities. This is just important to note for future usefulness. This can be used to determine what type of triangle it is, whether it's an acute, obtuse, or right angle triangle. So if you can find that a squared plus b squared is bigger than c squared, then you know that this triangle is actually an acute. If a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then you know that the triangle is a right angle triangle. However, if a squared plus b squared is smaller than c squared, then you know that the triangle is obtuse. That basically concludes Pythagorean theorem. There might not be too much to it, however, this is just a very important theorem and formula to remember, as it will become very useful in the future.